this was just a phase of my life of how I got around. So pre-city bike, whereas now I would hop on a city bike and get somewhere. So it is always involving wheels. But no, when I used to get, and we were in the suburbs, and then I would commute to the city and I would rollerblade to the train station, which also brings us to another phase, the pawn show. But we'll talk about that next. But somehow those things connect. Hello.
We made it.
Good to see you. What a day with Zoom being down.
Zoom is down.
This is honestly, as somebody said in the studio, can you imagine what's happening at Zoom right now if you work there? You know what I mean?
No.
So it's like, in a way, we could just be on the receiving end of it and be like, poor them, because it's crazy. Crazy.
Zoom is down, so we're recording. We're using a free trial on Riverside to get this podcast recorded.
Maybe you'll like
nice. I know. I do that. It's nice.
Changing things up.
There's a timer. It's nice for my end for knowing.
Oh, that is nice. And then what about, and then, well, we'll have to see where the recording goes, but you're in charge of that. I have no idea.
We'll figure it out.
So much fun. So you brought some jokes today, apparently.
A few. Well, I got a little derailed with the Zoom being out, but last week we were talking about, like spring break in Thailand, and we were talking about spring break stories, and I started to write some ideas. Nothing is it's very rough, but I think it could be very funny because White Lotus is the season in Thailand. So these jokes could actually be very timely to actually write and do some material about, because White Lotus took place. So some of my joke, I more have like a structure for how I'd maybe want to tell the story of spring break in Thailand and less like actual punchlines. But I thought it could be funny to be like, I've never been on a classic spring break. Like I've never been to Mexico or Cancun, and I can confidently say that where's the line? Sorry, I'm like,
okay.
I can confidently say that Mexico, Cabo, Cancun is child's play compared to going to spring break in Thailand. Like that's what I want.
That's good.
The thing to be about. And one of the lines is like, 5 of us went on this trip and only 4 returned without a tattoo.
That's funny.
Spoiler alert, I was the friend who got tatted. And I can confidently say that getting a tattoo was the most tame part of that spring break. Can you imagine that? For starters.
And I would laugh louder, but I have to contain my laugh.
That's why I'm like, I don't want to do all my jokes, because then
don't worry.
you're going to start hacking up a lung.
I'll go into a coughing fit, but it's okay. I'm going to just do a smile to indicate I'm enjoying it. Okay, good.
You could do the...
That's a great idea. I'll do... That's funny.
For people listening, I did the deaf signal for like applause.
That's great. Is there a deaf signal for laughter? Like,
I don't know.
We have to figure that out.
Question.
Okay.
But so spoiler alert, I was the friend who got tatted, and I can confidently say that getting a tattoo is the most tame part of the trip. For starters, we touched down in Thailand, and on the first day of their Songkran festival, which is their New Year's, they celebrate by having a countrywide water gun fight, hopped off a plane at Bangkok and immediately got waterboarded by a small Thai child. Another one. Where is it? I wrote down another line that it was like about it being child's play, is that I've never been, this is another line, I've never been to the classic destinations, but yeah, Mexico is child's play. You're at an all-inclusive resort with everything provided to you within a 1 mile radius. We were getting drunk off of $1 buckets of Long Island iced tea while our friend hopped in the Mai Tai boxing ring and fought another spring breaker.
I remember that. I remember that story.
Yeah.
Who was that? Monica? Who did that?
No, that was Jess.
Oh God. Oh my God. That's funnier now.
All I really have, but the structure that I want it to be is like, oh, you think going to Mexico's crazy? Try going to Thailand.
That's good. That's good. I like this set.
And the fact that getting a tattoo was literally like the most calm part. It was like, not to be like, oh, crazy, but it was like the most sober was me getting a tattoo like that. And I think that's so funny.
I know.
And
And all I remember, I just have memories of you like being just in mud with elephants. And I was like, who is this child?
Oh my
like,
God.
what an experience.
I just remembered another story that I'm going to have to put in this. That
Well,
I just
tell it.
remembered about Thailand. I'll do it quick. But with the mud elephants, we were in mud. Oh my God, this has to get added because this is such a core memory of that trip. We did this elephant feeding where you fed the elephants and then you brought them to the mud baths to wash them because they go in the mud. And then everyone was just playing in the mud. And the next phase was bringing them to like the spring to like wash the mud off. But while we're all like kind of playing in the mud, everyone's kind of just like throwing mud at each other. It's like very, very wholesome moment. And my friends, like some of my friends are in the mud, but I'm like in the mud, you know, like I was like, we're here, we're rocking in the mud, we're going for it. All my friends are kind of like standing on the edge. And all of a sudden I just get tackled to the ground, like body slammed to the ground. And I think it's the one guy friend we're with. And I'm like, oh, haha, Grant, like body slamming me into the mud. No, complete stranger just body slams me into the mud. And then I'm covered. I have a picture of this that I'm going to have to find.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say it was an elephant's trunk. And I was kidding.
No, but like,
so the elephants are very gentle, right?
So gentle.
Oh, like you got to be with elephants. It's just, that's beautiful.
So that's where I want the material to go.
I love this.
I'll keep developing it because I think it'll be funny to kind of,
I love it.
More so play on like White Lotus versus Spring Break.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And I also love that kind of leads into our topic because when I think about Thailand, I think of like you in your travel phase, like your travel era. I don't even know if we want to call it phases today, but we should call it like eras. Just
I like the eras, yeah.
Right? So you were in your travel era like hardcore because you were doing very interesting travel at that point. Because going to Australia in the first place was not your typical go study abroad that a lot of people just go to Europe and then they bop around Europe. This was like you were on the other side of the world. So your trips were New Zealand, you know, your little jaunts were Thailand. Your jaunts instead of going to jaunting to Spain. So you had an interesting travel phase.
I mean, I still have the travel phase. It's just like we just got back from a weekend in Ojai and it was like, I know it's different. It's like college.
Well, I'm going to call it your solo travel phase.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you really did those trips, you know, you did like a bunch of trips solo, really.
I did.
Just skydiving by yourself. I don't know nobody in my life that I can think of right now. I can't even think of anybody that would say, yeah, I think I'm just going to go skydiving by myself. Except maybe for me, if I was into something like that.
It was very Helen of me.
It was a Helen thing to do that if I wasn't, you know, terrified of doing something like that particular thing. But yeah, because I would do things solo. I have no problem with it. So I love that you have that in you. That's so cool. But my God, I don't know if I would skydive by myself. Crazy.
I feel like my solo travel phase, we can say that's one of my eras. And it's like it... Because it's like Africa was one of them. I went to Paris, did like the 2 weeks like homestay.
The 21-day thing. Let's just go back to this skydiving by yourself for a second. I think this is not getting enough attention. Hold on. Because I just want to circle back. I was traveling somewhere for work.
I was traveling to Australia to visit me.
Oh, that's what it was. Because I was on a plane. I remember when you texted me this, that, hey, I just thought I should mention that I'm going to jump out of a plane by myself with nobody else here with me. Like, who's going to report? You weren't even with like a possible person who could call your emergency contact. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I gave them that information.
What were you thinking?
That nobody else wanted to go and I didn't have classes that day.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Somebody else would say, I think I'll go for ice cream because I didn't have class today. Yay. What's going on?
I wouldn't say it's like a daredevil, but I feel like, again, maybe that's what my phase is. It's an era that maybe I'm still in that I'm not out of my adventure. I would still go skydiving. I would still.
I don't know. I don't think you're in that same. I'm going to say that was a phase, and we're just going to go with it. Like you just. I don't think
this is you being a mom. You're like you're out of that phase.
You're going to be jumping off any cliffs anytime soon. Please don't jump off a cliff.
I did go cliff jumping in Australia too.
Oh my God. Anyway.
My daredevil phase, short-lived. No, but I still think going on stage, like, I think it's just
Okay,
like it's
that's
now in a
Daredevil.
different
You're right.
era. I don't know. It's a different.
It's manifesting in a different way or whatever. It's like rearing itself.
Maybe
but I look back to those times and I think even for myself, like I didn't really, you were in Australia Africa for weeks. And I don't remember being like, where is she today? I was just doing my life and you have to give me a little credit for being that kind of a mother. Come on.
Africa, we didn't have much of a choice. I was there. I turned my phone on airplane mode and then I didn't turn it back on until I landed back in the States.
Anyway.
I know. That one's crazy too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The daredevil phase is still
and people
there.
would be like, are you worried about her? Are you worried about where she is? I'm like, no, I was never worried.
Because here's the thing. We're calling this the daredevil phase, but I'm like, a daredevil within reason. Like, you know that it's
you
like
have a level head.
I have your
daredevil
interest in doing daredevil things with dad's head on his shoulders. That's me.
That's right.
So I have both of you so that I can do all these things that are daredevilish within reason. Like, I'm not doing anything that's really going to put me in. Like, I'm thinking through all the things I'm doing before I'm doing them.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. Thank God. That's a relief.
And maybe we'll have to ask Steven if he thinks my daredevil phase is still. I think it's still here.
You think it's still activated?
I think it's still activated. Maybe it's just a little more tame, but I still like to do the things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What phase? Let's talk about one of your phases.
My phases. Well, I like the one that I think phases is funny. It's funny to talk about it because I'm going to throw in the rollerblading phase just because there was a lot connected to the rollerblading phase of my life. And it was not just the fact that I wouldn't go to a roller rink and rollerblade for people who are listening. This was just a phase of my life of how I got around. So pre-city bike, whereas now I would hop on a city bike and get somewhere. So it is always involving wheels. But no, when I used to get, and we were in the suburbs and then I would commute to the city and I would rollerblade to the train station. Which also brings us to another phase, the poncho. But we'll talk about that next. But somehow those things connect because we'll tie in why. But one time Steven said, like, how did she used to rollerblade with a poncho on? I'm like, oh, he doesn't know me before my poncho phase. So anyway, they weren't connected, but they're in my mind now. They're related. Okay, so I used to rollerblade 2 miles to the train station in Chatham, downhill. So at night coming back, it was like uphill to get home, which was crazy. And it was such a good workout. Then I would have my rollerblades in the city and I would skate to my office. I would skate to meetings. That's how I got around. And I only had one time where I fell, where I actually have a scar, because there was one of those in the streets. A lot of times they fill, like, I don't know if there's gas lines or whatever, but they had a wire going across and it was going right across the bike lane. So, and there wasn't a lot of bike lanes in the city back then, but there was a bike lane in this case. And as I was skating up the bike lane, there was this thick cable that I didn't see. And I just hit it and I went. So I landed on my knee and I gashed my knee open. And at that point, I was rollerblading with someone at work who was ahead of me and didn't notice that I fell for like 3 blocks. Finally turned around and saw that I wasn't with the person anymore. Oh, but I did have one fall that was pretty significant. And but nothing else, no other incidents. That's just how I used to commute. How did you think about it?
How did you start rollerblading? Like, was it just something you always did as a kid, or did, like, once you got into the city, you were like, oh, it'll just be so much easier to rollerblade here?
I don't know. I think it might have started because somebody I worked with a lot was always rollerblading from the train station. I was like, oh, I should do that too. That's a great way to get around. And I was decent at rollerblading, so I'd always known how to do it. I think I put skates on when rollerblading came into fashion with you kids. So I was skating, whatever. So I was confident on rollerblades. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't necessarily do it a lot for exercise, but I was competent, So that's how it started. It was just like out of convenience so that I wouldn't have to bike to the train station and deal with a bike. I would always like skate and just have my skates with me. So I just got into it. But it's funny. It was definitely related to someone I worked with did it. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea. And that became my thing to get around. What was interesting and also tragic is that on 9/11, when I was on the train, I had my rollerblades. And when I got off the train, I had my rollerblades. So I rollerbladed to the train station, got on the train, and I was halfway into the city. And Dad called on the cell and he goes, go home. There was, the towers got hit. And I'm like, what? And he's like, go back. And I go, I can't. We had already got past the last stop. And he goes, and then that's when he said, a plane hit the World Trade Center. And then I could see the trade towers smoking in the when I was on the train. When I got into the city, there was no trains going back. Everything had stopped. So I had my rollerblades. I put my skates on, skated to my office, and they weren't letting anybody upstairs in the buildings. So then I was like, okay, now I'm in the city. I couldn't reach anybody because at that point, Camille and I always talk about this. Like the cell phones didn't work because the networks were down. And the only person who I seemed to be able to reach by cell was Camille, my sister Camille. That was it. I couldn't get in touch with my parents. I couldn't reach Tom. And we were both in the city, but our cell phones, for some reason, me and her had somehow our phones worked to each other. So she's the only one that was able to communicate and tell people that I was okay. And at that point, I couldn't even reach Dad. So I had to put my skates on and I just skated my ass across town to his office. in the midst of the train.
9/11?
Yes. Julie, you didn't know this? This is crazy.
No.
I put skates on and I went.
Picture you like towers falling down. You're like,
I literally stopped. I would stop on the street because I went over to by 6th Avenue. You could really see the towers at that point. And I stood there with rollerblades on watching the towers fall. And people, no, it's a crazy memory. And I also didn't have anything in my bag, no phone or no, we didn't have cell phones to record video, but I used to always carry a camera. And it was the one day I didn't bring the goddamn camera. So I couldn't even document anything with my camera. So I didn't have my little point and shoot. So I had your baby journal in my bag. Okay. So I literally sat on a curb because as I was sitting there and people were coming, there was just like sadness and it was terrifying at the same time and nobody knew what the hell was going on and were people just walking, kind of talking to each other like we were all this together unit of people just in disbelief. And I sat and I wrote in the journal everything that was happening because I said, I got to remember this and I don't have anything to document it with. So in your baby journal, there's like pages of scribble of me just scribbling about what was happening when the planes hit the tower. And then I put my I had my skates on. So I kept skating and I skated to Dad's office all the way to Waterside. I skated from the west side all the way to 23rd and the East River. And I walked in and because we couldn't reach each other. And he was just like, he was so relieved to see me. And then we sat upstairs. There was a restaurant right at Waterside Plaza and there were TVs on and everybody from his office just sat and watched for hours on TV of what was happening.
And then how'd you get home that night?
And then we couldn't, so he had his car in the city. So we couldn't get through. The tunnels were closed and we had to wait until finally, I think around 10 o'clock at night is when they opened the George Washington Bridge. We had to drive to the George Washington Bridge and then back down. And it was Secaucus at the time. So it was Chatham.
You were in Chatham.
Yeah, we were in Chatham. Yeah.
Because one of my first memories is 9/11.
Oh my God.
And watching it on TV with Sita.
Oh my God. Really?
And her just crying. Yeah.
How old were you? So 96.
5.
Oh God, Julie. That's intense. And then she must have known we were okay. Cause I think I probably said to Camille, if you could call home and tell Sita I'm okay, the babysitter. And so that must have been, cause I know I could only reach her. I couldn't get anyone else on the phone. It was insane.
Wild.
Yeah. It was insane. And Camille and I will always talk about it to this day, how like that day was so bizarre that I could only reach her. And I said, Camille, I can't even get Tom on the phone. This is so crazy. So she was like my lifeline to calling people to let them know I was okay. And on the New Jersey side.
Oh my gosh.
It's
and
crazy.
You were rollerblading through the debris.
Rollerblading through it. And it was so convenient.
It was so convenient.
Just because I was able to get around. I skated down a few blocks to get a little closer to see, but then I was like, I don't want to get closer. Well, because of the daredevil.
You're talking about me jumping out of a plane. You're rollerblading right into a terrorist.
I was going down Fifth Avenue a little bit to see what was happening. It was crazy.
Wow.
I mean, sometimes I think about that day and it's like, God. And then just on 6th Ave, I think I was on 6th. When the second tower.
Yeah, because you can see
like we stood there. I can remember being with all these strangers and just watching that, like, because you see it on the TV shows, on the documentaries. Jonathan watches the documentary.
I've seen it so many times. You don't have to tell me what it looks like. Jonathan's made sure those images are burned in my brain, burned on my retina.
Right? Every 9/11, we get to see them when he's with us. But crazy. And sometimes I'm riveted because I'm like, I remember it like so vividly, like it was yesterday. It's so vivid of just being there and standing there and watching it and thinking like, this is like a movie and I'm watching it in real life. So crazy. So crazy. Wow. I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but it was in the rollerblading phase.
Isn't that crazy? The rollerblading era.
It was right in the smack in the middle of them. Isn't that smack in the middle? Yeah, we can timestamp it. It's so crazy. And now
insane.
Sometimes I go down, whenever I go down there, I'm always, I like to go to the Freedom Tower and I like to go to the memorial and just reflect on it and think about it.
And you city bike there now. So you're always.
I do city bike. I'm on wheels. I'm on wheels and get myself down there. I keep thinking I should bring my rollerblades up here though, because I could just bike over to the west side, pop my rollerblades on and roll down the park. I wouldn't rollerblade in the streets because, it's bad enough I'm city biking. But I should do it because now I think that would be good exercise. I'm going to do it. I'll report back next week. I have to go. We're not going down to get the rollerblades this week. So I'll report back soon when I bring the skates up. And I'm going to just bring back the rollerblading. I saw somebody skating on the west side recently and I thought, I got to get my blades out.
I feel like that was a big era for you, the rollerblading.
It was.
Because everybody knew you as the rollerblading, like mom. Like,
oh my God.
I feel like people just knew
I was the cool mom driving, like riding down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I would see the kids coming to school in the morning. I'd be like, hi, I'd be waving at them. Hey. And then sometimes I'd do like high fives. Oh my God. When I had the right ones, they'd come up and they'd high five me and then coming down. Sometimes it was scary because the brakes on a rollerblade is not easy. So it's like
I don't like
talk about like quad work. So it was like it's intense.
Damn.
But I did it. I did like that era.
That was a good era.
It was a good era. I don't have that was like a very significant
like the big
era.
era, yes. Because Steven literally asked me this question over the weekend when we were talking about things. We were just chatting. He's like, did I ever get, like, literally what was an era that, and I couldn't think of anything that I like. I can't think of anything like that I got really into, like rollerblading like that like I had a really hard time thinking of like, I don't know if it's just because I felt like I did a lot of different things randomly, but I just felt like, I've done so many, I don't know.
Well, I guess, I would look at your childhood and it's a very significant basketball era. Like
true. That's a big one. Yeah, you're right.
That was big. And then there was like,
you got me there.
No, I did get you. Because to me, your eras were defined by sports in a way, just because that's what you would be into. And that's what defined you for that period, defined like the clothes you wore. Like I was kidding around about your Converse era, but you always wear, you have like fashion. Yeah, you still wear those. I do. I also get a lot of, I get defined by fashion things in my era. That's why the poncho era, I'm kidding. Yes. It wasn't at the same time as rollerblading, but I did have a poncho era.
You did have a poncho. This was college because you always you got really into wearing ponchos. And like, then I remember, yeah. Okay, go for it.
This is why I got into
hot flashes, right?
Bingo, bango.
You had the armadillos?
I had the armadillos. Because I was sweating all the time and ponchos were so easy because it was like on, off, and I was sweating. So that's why it's kind of nice to know that era is over, because that's what I needed ponchos for. And so as soon as I didn't need the ponchos anymore, I was like, oh, I guess my hot flashes are under control finally. Because I had a really bad, I'll call it the Menno era, but I did. It was awful. And I was hot all the time. And I was dripping a sweat. I'd be at a meeting and then I couldn't even move because I'd be like, oh my God, does anybody see this? Like beads of sweat coming down here, down my back, between my boobs. Oh, yeah. We should have a whole chat about freaking menopause just to let people know this is what's coming. People should know. But now at least we have Tamsin's book. So we have we have How to Menopause. Thank you, Tamsin.
I guess, yeah.
I do love that book. I wish I had it in here. It's inside. But I started reading it because I just so now it's kind of going to be interesting to read it after the fact. And I wish that I would have had a resource like that when I was going through it. So you're very lucky that now people are talking about this because nobody knew. Nobody talked about it. And my mother will swear she didn't have menopause, okay? She will literally say, oh, I never had hot flashes. I wasn't moody. what life did you live that I missed? Because she was so freaking moody. She was mad all the time. She was, forget it. Let's not even get into that. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
She's rewriting history. I tell history like it is. I'm not rewriting it.
Yeah,
I was at the doctor
into
crying. I do. I don't miss work. When I was going through the menopause thing, I set up a doctor's appointment because I was in such bad shape, and I thought I need to fix this. And this is crazy. This is a good story to tell. So when I was working on a project for Chatham, for the ladies in Chatham, it was one of those shows, and it was called Stories 6. And it was going to be a fashion show, and there was 6 women that were interviewed, and their outfits or their wedding dresses were being shown or something like that in this fashion show. So we had these stories that we had to tell. And one of them, she's friends with me now, Chris Anderson. When I interviewed her, it was the first time I ever met her. And we were just talking about like whatever this was about her wedding dress, et cetera, et cetera. And somehow we got on the topic of menopause. And she said, yeah, I think that people who say they're not going to take medication, they just don't know that it could actually help when your symptoms are that severe and it's not dangerous and this, that, and the other thing. And I sat there listening to her going, holy shit, I need medicine. That's what I need, because I just knew that I was off. And so I made a doctor's appointment and then showed up the wrong day at this doctor's appointment. But when I tell you, it was like showing up to a fountain at an oasis. I was so close to getting the solution to my problem. And when I got to the front desk at the doctor's office and she said, oh, your appointment's it's not today. It was yesterday. Bawling. I was immediately hysterical crying. Oh, you don't understand. I need this poor lady at the front desk. Listen,
my God.
They got me in. They took me that day because I was like, I can't leave here. I need help. And I just was, because I thought I was so close to a solution.
Yeah.
And then I was getting denied that I just kind of like melted down right on the spot. And this nice lady at the front desk took kindness on me and got me in there and squeezed me in. And then I was able to start taking some medicine to make myself feel better. And I am so thankful. I'm so thankful to Chris for saying it in an interview. And I'm still friends with her to this day. We go to the dance parties together. And I always thank her for like just enlighten, because nobody talked about it. And everybody was like, oh, medicine bad. No, don't do medicine, you know? That's all you ever hear is, no, it's going to cause this and it's going to cause that. And it was like the answer to me feeling normal again. So that's my other learning point for today.
You had two big eras, your menopause era and your rollerblade era.
My hot flash era was bad.
My daredevil era. Right now I'm in my comedy era. Oh,
I have another era. I have another era.
Okay.
And that was my
one last era.
Last era. Because I'm good now. I got to go.
This is Helen's era. Next week I'll do more of my.
Yeah, you got to think about your eras more. But my other era was Chatham Club era.
Oh, yes.
You were in that era with me.
I wasn't. You got to explain what the Chatham Club era
Chatham Club is a fitness studio in Chatham where we used to live. And they had lots of different group programs. So not just like group fitness, they would have programs and they went off they did a spin-off of that show Biggest Loser. And so they made like a Biggest Loser thing. And then there was group fitness. And then you had a group and everybody was competing. Juli, where you were in my group at one point. And it was so good.
Let's just say this is the beginning of me hanging out with older women, because I was the only teenager in the group of moms working out with all of you guys at like the Biggest Loser competition. I was the only kid, and it was all moms. That then I was like,
Mariana Schroeder.
Yeah,
wasn't Mariana in our group?
And like
Mrs. Schroeder,
Mrs. Aloya.
Oh my God, Juli! So you have eras like the older women era.
I'm still in my older woman era. I'm still friends with older ladies. It's been I can't wait to tell Liz about this. She's going to die. I might have to call her today and be like,
oh my God, tell her you were. Yes, that this was the beginning of it. And it was, and you were well, first of all, between that and the dance parties. So it was all part of, you would be with the ladies. You were helping me get the food out. You were always, you were part of the scene. I brought you right in. You were my friend the whole way. I will say, I think that's a somewhat of a difference in our relationship, maybe, that because I didn't have multiple daughters. I had you and I had the boys, right? So you were like, not just also you were my daughter, but you were also like my buddy. in this way because you were the only, so you didn't have like a sister to team up against me, like, moaning about mom, you didn't have that. So if you're going to moan, you'd have to moan to me about me.
Yeah.
If you're going to complain. So there was so I think we always had a different kind of relationship for that reason.
This is great because next week I've been starting to write jokes about the Durbo parties. So next week I can do some jokes about you and our eras, and it could go with the Durbo parties because I think that'd be a great segue.
Yes, the Durbo parties were epic.
We can talk about that next week again. I know we did an episode about it way back, but maybe
we need to really dig in on to what it was.
To like how
we got to dig in because it's
that'll
literally
be next week.
Okay, let's do that because I have people that only the people that were there truly understand what that was. Yeah. And sometimes somebody recently just said to me, "Oh my God, we need another Durbo party." And I'm like, "Don't we though? We really do." Because it was something very different than just me going to Daybreak or me just going with Chris to the 305 Fitness. It was a vibe.
Okay, we'll break it down next week, but this was fun. I liked discussing the eras. I can't believe this 9/11 rollerblading story. Like that just was not where I was expecting the conversation to go today.
So
but
funny.
So interesting. I could also write a bit about that you were like, because I did want to write material about 9/11 being like literally one of my first memories. Like that's literally,
oh my God.
And I think back to the earliest thing that I can think of. It's like sitting on the couch watching the news with Sita.
Wow.
She's scream crying, but.
Oh my God. And I want to say, you must have this memory too from around that time. I'm not saying this was before or after the Sita memory. She can have the first memory. That's fine. Yeah. This is not a competition. But I do remember it's not a competition with a babysitter who's no longer with us. Anyway, crazy. But I remember having diarrhea one night and you were a little tiny thing and I had to clean you up and bring you downstairs and we were watching the Olympics.
Oh yes, that's a really early one too.
Isn't that an early memory too?
Yes, that's the early. I've forgotten the timeline. That's probably before. We'll give you that. It's before.
No, you don't have to give me that. Whatever.
No,
whatever.
I think
however
that was 2000. So that would be actually
theoretically earlier. Okay. Let's look that up. Let's fact check that. You can fact check that.
I feel like I remember that because I thought I was having diarrhea because I had 2 bananas that day instead of just 1 banana. That was like, and then I had a fear of eating more than 1 banana for a while, but that's fine. All right.
But you were so cute. And then you were on I can picture it like it's one of my core memories of like you and the blonde hair and your little, oh my God, it is so like, I can almost smell it and feel it. And the couch and the decor, like, how it's all there for me right now, like there. The TV.
I can remember too.
Which skater was it? Do you have any memory?
The Hughes sisters, one of them or something.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. Right. So let's just end it there because it was too good. And it's just a beautiful memory that I could cry thinking about. Okay. Right. Yours truly.
Helen and Juli.
Oh, this was so fun. Oh, baby
this
girl.
Is a good one.
I enjoyed it. I love when you learn something in these episodes. And the fact that you didn't know about the rollerblading thing on 9/11. So I love that. That was something I just like when our conversations bring something to light that might not have ever been discussed ever in our life. Like, why would we even talk about that? So I love the podcast. Thank you, Juli.
Alrighty.
Thank you to all our listeners. Leave us a nice review and all the things. Do all the things.
Love you. We'll be back next week.
Okay. Yeah, we will. Bye.
Bye.